I really don't go to work every day. I go and have fun.
The reason I think it's so important to minimize is so that your team can be extremely clear on what those are.
Yeah, I'm getting excited just talking about it.
What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Seven Figure Dentist Playbook. I'm JM Ryerson, and I am so blessed today to be with somebody who's become a friend of mine. Had a chance to visit his amazing place, both professionally and personally, and he is awesome for the subject we're going to be talking about, which is really culture, building that culture, and he's done that 100% in his practice out in Oklahoma. Dr. John Phillips, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, JM. Thank you so much for having me. This is one of my favorite subjects, and it's going to be life-changing for people that want to make it life-changing. So thanks for having me.
Truly my pleasure, and he can't stress it enough. He's absolutely right. What we're going to be talking about absolutely will change your career, and I'm so excited to dive into it. Well, as I mentioned in the introduction, I am so excited to have John with me because he and I 100% see this subject as one of the most important things when it comes to building your team. So I'm going to just start with a really, really wide open question, which is, John, why do you feel that building that culture is so important? What has it done for your practice as you've built this from a smaller operation to one that's grown and one that's growing even more into expansion to another location? I would venture to say a lot of that has to do with culture, but I'm curious to see what your experience has been.
Well, when I think about culture and I think about what we're trying to do is build a place, build an environment that when people come, they feel better about themselves, both the employees and your customer. In this case, it's your patient. If you can enjoy coming, now, JM, we're not selling diamonds. Nobody wants to go to the dentist. They just don't want to go. And there's apprehension about it. And so when you compare what is it that we're doing, and culture is everything. If people come and they can feel better about themselves, then we have a chance to do something really, really special.
Yeah, it's a good point because I often, when I'm talking to you dentists and doctors out there, there's this theme that nobody loves going to the dentist. I'm the one weirdo. I love going. You guys do make me feel better. I feel clean. I feel like, oh my gosh, you guys. Now, I'm not having major work done, knock on wood thus far, but I like what you said, John. It's like, look, yeah, I've heard you guys say this is really the window into somebody's soul. Your smile is that important.
It is, and 50% of the people don't want to go to the dentist because of some type of fear, some type of dental phobia, and our audience knows this. And so how can we make this environment the very best for them? Well, you can't do that if you have a bad office culture. You can't do that if your employees don't love what they do. They're not passionate about what they do. They don't understand the value in what they're bringing to the table and how we can change lives. I had 2 patients this morning look at their new smile, and they broke down, and tears started coming, and hugs were shared. And it's impactful, man. I mean, it's empowering, and we're passionate about what we do. And I think that shows. I think that our passion shows, and it kind of runs over into our culture as well. And I think they work side by side because we are truly changing lives.
And you are. There's no question about it. I guess what I would ask, if I'm sitting here listening, because again, both you and I are huge advocates of being intentional about your culture, making sure that we absolutely get what I would call buy-in. That's the one thing your team has over the majority of not just dental practices. I would say the vast majority of businesses, you have a real buy-in with your team. I want to dig into that a little bit because how did you do that, John? And that may be a big question. And I'm curious to see how intentional you were in the beginning of your career to where you are now Because when I walk through those doors at Chickasha at 29th Street, I mean, guys, it's dynamic, it's energetic, it's exciting, and these aren't typically words that you hear about when it comes to dentistry. So I guess I'll give you one question. Were you really intentional about culture from starting your practice, or where did you learn this idea?
No, we were definitely intentional. And we got onto this high fear dental phobic sedation movement literally 25 years ago. And we found out really quick that we had to be different. And we also found out that people were willing to drive if they were being listened to, if they were being cared for. And so we knew that our culture had to be a culture of loving on people. We knew right from the start, we sat down and had a team meeting and we asked, what if we were to build an office culture guide, what would we put in it? And so things like being happy to do it, things like loving our job. We are a fast-paced office. If you say you're going to do it, then you better do it. We created this whole office culture guide that said this is how we're going to behave. And it wasn't just me that did this. My entire team came up with it. It was a very, very powerful exercise. Now we've shortened that down to just 4 things. Is it okay if I share it with you right now?
Please, brother. The more we can share what you're doing, because my hope is everybody follows suit. You've got a great practice. I want to talk more also so we don't forget people driving and coming far distances to you, because, brother, Chickasha is what, 17,000 people? So you have... Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we're in the middle of western Oklahoma, and people are normally driving. Today, I've seen patients from Oklahoma City, an hour and a half into Texas. I had a patient fly in from Crested Butte, Colorado. I had a patient a week ago from Naples, Florida. And so people are willing to drive. Some of that stuff took some traction to get to this level, but this is what we do. And our culture makes people feel special when they're here. And so this is really important to me. Our cultural values, if you were to, our top 4 is number 1, we believe that we're supposed to be Christ-centered. And what that means is that we live life together. Every day, there's 42 employees here. Every day we live life together. We go through divorces together. We go through family deaths together. We go through a miscarriage together. I mean, it's hard, and every morning we have a meeting and we have a prayer time, and that's when you can really, really share what your concerns are, and everybody has a burden that they're carrying. And by us having a time we can share that also means we have a time that we can close that up. And during that time, it's like, man, I got your back today. I have an employee right now that her grandmother's not doing very well. She's not here today. She never misses work. She's committed. She's loyal. She never misses work. Well, she's not here today. What do you think the rest of the team is doing? They're holding the rope. They're rowing the boat. They are all in to help us out, because this girl, she's committed. And so the first thing is we believe we're a Christ-centered office, and that just means that we believe that there's a higher power that helps us throughout the day, and we're very committed to that. The second thing is that we're committed. We're committed to each other. We're committed to the cause. We're passionate about what we do, and that's changing lives. We're competitive. What does that mean, you're competitive? It's how can we get better? How can we work on training? How can we grow each other? How can we have fun doing it? I really don't go to work every day. I go and have fun. And that's the truth. And the last thing is probably most important. The first one's probably most important, but this one is right up there, compassionate. You got to love what you do. You got to do beautiful dentistry when nobody's looking. You got to be willing to sit down and listen to the patient when they're not happy. Sit down and care for the patient who hadn't been the dentist in 26 years because they were abused as a child. They had a bad experience. And you know what? When you truly get to the point where, how can I help? How can I serve you? How can I take care of you? When you get to that point, there's never any issues from the patient that, oh, they're just trying to get in my pocketbook. That never happens here. But it starts with how I am with my team. Because if I come in and I'm a grumpy bear right from the start, I'm not living our office culture guide. And that's huge to us.
And if I can, I mean, obviously, when you talk about being Christ-centered, typically I would say, not that you don't have bad days, of course, but it's a way of showing up as the best version of you, right? Like you said, you're going to face adversities. So I want to break this down because literally we could go through each four, and we probably will at some point. But you mentioned something, and this is something I coach on. You said we actually kind of narrowed it down a bit. And as you guys know, anybody that's listened to me, I coach to have no more than 3 values. Now, John has the 4 C's, and it makes total sense. I've been in his location, as I mentioned. I met his team. The third one the second one, they are truly committed. And what I mean by that, they're not interested in these values. They are truly committed to not only knowing them, but showing up and serving in this way. And that's why I think your team can get away with doing that extra value. So we're clear. I'm not saying, as I've told John, if your team's truly committed, yeah, go for 4. Fantastic. The reason I think it's so important to minimize is so that your team can be extremely clear on what those are. So my question would be, how many did you have at one point, and when did you get down to having 4, John? And what did you experience when you went from whatever it was before to going to less? Because I had some big experiences when I made that decision.
Well, I would say what our original thing we did 20 years ago was almost like it's our office culture playbook. And it literally might have been 15 pages. And it was well thought out. It was real good. And everybody we hired them based off of this. We hired them based off of who we want to be. It felt good, and it was forgettable. It was too much. And so when you clarify, it's just like your vision, your culture. And to me, my vision is, where do I want to go in the future for 29th Street Dental Care? How crystal clear can I be about that? What's my vision for my doctors? How crystal clear can I be about that? What's my vision for our culture? How crystal clear can that be? We're Christ-centered, we're committed, we're competitive, and we're compassionate. And I can talk for hours about all 4 of them because they are who we are.
Well, and so here's the one thing I would suggest. He did the extra one, but he's got 4 C's. It helps. I'm just literally going down how to really help your team know. From John being the original member to whoever his most recent employee, it's easy for them to remember what are our values. It's the 4 C's. And here's the other interesting thing that I love about this. He has one that sometimes you think, okay, competitive, wait, but they're compassionate? Isn't that really speaking out of both sides of our mouth? And it's not. This is what I love about defining your values, because again, it's okay to be competitive. I think it's a good thing. And yet we do have compassionate listening. We do genuinely care about not only our patients, but our internal teammates. I love how you had that kind of 2 sides of the spectrum, because it does define exactly, and it really starts with you, brother. It really does define the way you show up. You are competitive. You want to win. You do win. And yet you're one of the nicest, most loyal, most just caring human beings that you could ask to meet. So talk to me about that. That's you don't see that often.
Yeah, but I don't know that it has to be on 2 sides of the spectrum, because when I think about competitive, it could be that someone shows up at 4:30, you're ready to shut down for the day, and this patient shows up and they just broke a tooth and it needs to be removed and maybe an implant placed. Okay, so we're competitive because we're going to jump on that like I like to say maybe like a NASCAR pit crew, where everybody runs in, we're competitive. Everybody runs in, takes care of the task at hand because this patient's in pain. That's being both competitive and compassionate at the same time. And so the other way could be that, hey, we're short on goal right now. And so how can we get this patient in quickly to take care of them? And we're competitive, maybe we're going to work through lunch in a way to help us hit our goal, because we are competitive, but the flip side is we're compassionate at the same time. So being competitive doesn't mean we're not compassionate. I think being compassionate is more speaking to the fundamental core of who we want to be with each other and who we want to be towards our patients. To pound her in the face or anything. We don't believe in that, but we believe that if we're going to listen to patients and love on them and take care of them, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so if we're competitive on the phone and the phone rings and we can get to it very quickly and take care of those people and get them in a very short amount of time, I think being competitive might even be more of being strategic in all aspects of the practice, being actively strategic in what we do, when we do it, and how we do it. Because in our office, nothing happens by accident. I hope that helps.
No, it totally helps. And as you're talking, 2 football coaches came to mind. And here's why. They actually have these very similar values. One is Dabo Swinney for Clemson. He is also extremely faith-based. He is extremely committed. He is 1,000% competitive. And when you talk to his former players, extremely compassionate. Another one most people don't know because they've just seen the accolades is Nick Saban. I've never met a former player of Nick Saban's that they don't absolutely love the man. Now, here's the thing. You see him grabbing the face mask. You see him absolutely bawling them out, screaming at them in a way that only a football coach can. I'm not suggesting any doctors listening, please don't follow that. Be more like Dabo. Dabo's a lover, man. Nick carries a pretty strong stick. But John, as you're talking about it, I was thinking, there's 2 amazing coaches, and Pat Summitt would be another female basketball coach that was absolutely described her to a T, all 4 of those. And you're absolutely right, brother. I want to talk about number 2. I think when I work with most businesses, when I work with most practices, getting the true buy-in from your team, getting that commitment, and not just being interested, but truly being committed. If you can achieve that, you're going to do great things. Can you talk about, maybe this is a hard question for you to answer, I'm curious, did that just naturally come? Because I know you have family members that work together and you have all sorts of cool stuff that way, but you don't always get that commitment. Where did that come from, John? Because the buy-in is really amazing on your team.
I think it comes from a lot of places, if I can speak on that for just a minute. I think one of the places that it comes is we invest in people. And we are a training office. We believe that the minute I quit learning is the last day on the job, when I'm walking out and I'm done as a dentist. And I believe that has to be trickled down into everybody. I also believe for that level of commitment to be there, they need to know that we're pouring into them. And let me just say this. Most all of our employees have been here. We have employees been here 23 years, but we have a lot of them. And I mean a lot of them been here over 10 years. And so we have a leadership core group, and they know my thoughts on this. We hire based off of attitude only. We believe we hire the right person with the right attitude, and then we can train them. We may not know exactly if they're going to be in the front or in the back. We hire based off of attitude, and that's huge. And then here's the second thing. We tell new hires, we're going to pour into you for 2 years. And so people say, no, I want to hire a dental assistant that already has all this training. Well, you can do that, and she may not fit your culture, and she could end up being a cancer to your culture. And with cancer, you cut that stuff out. You just cut it away and get rid of it, because there's no room for cancer in our office. And we talk about that. And so when we tell employees, you have no experience, we're going to hire you, and it's going to take 2 years for us to pour into you before we get a return on our investment. Now that's important because we're committed to them. So in return, we expect them to be committed as well. And if you hire the right attitude, I learned that probably in 1997, 1998 by a mentor of mine It doesn't matter if they have a terrible attitude and they're an excellent hygienist or an excellent dentist or an excellent person on the phone. They're not going to make it in your practice. They're gonna do more damage than.
Here's the other thing I want to get to, because you just mentioned I have 40 employees. Look, you're going to have challenges. You are in the people business. You and I have talked about this. You happen to do dentistry, but you are in the building leadership business. If you guys want to take something away, when you talk to John's leaders, they are empowered. He is the opposite of micromanagement. The opposite. Now, my question would be, when it's not sunshine and rainbows, John, when you have to deal with that adversity that you know is going to come, and I can think of a couple of examples you and I have talked about, but no specific examples, but when tough decisions need to be made, walk me through how your culture supports you, because again, I find it unique the way you do this. You don't put it all on your shoulders.
I believe in my employees. I believe we've got the right kind of employees. I believe in my team wholeheartedly, and I believe in my team leaders. They've been with me through thick and thin. They are committed. And number one, I have to be committed. Number two, my team leaders have to be committed. And we are in the business of growing, leading, and empowering people. Maybe it's our patients to get their work done, but maybe it's our team to grow and go to another level. So if a difficult position or a difficult situation comes up, which they do, we're in the people business, like you said. So when a difficult position or situation comes up, how do we handle that? Well, sometimes you have to go through and look at all the circumstances, and they know whose name is out on the building, out on the sign. It's my name. But I need their help because, quite frankly, their perspective is going to be different than mine, number one. Number two, I learned to listen to my wife. I've learned to listen to my office manager. And then there's some women in my life that they have intuition that, quite frankly, I just don't have. And, there's strength with a good leadership core. And we want to go through any situation that could be very, very, very difficult. We may have 2 or 3 meetings over it. And some of these difficult situations have to be dealt with sometimes quickly. Sometimes we have to revisit them. And, it isn't always about moving an employee around or doing something, but life happens. And sometimes life is hard. And so I rely on my team leaders to do the leading so I can do what I love to do. I love leading and growing people, but also am passionate about doing dentistry. I don't want to quit doing dentistry. I get excited about changing people's lives in the dental chair. But the older I get, the more excited I get about growing doctors to do great things, growing other offices. Other offices come in and we grow them and we help them as well. I have doctors call me all the time and I get just as much excitement about watching their teams grow as well.
Yeah, the whole trust but verify. I want to break this down for a second, because what happens is ultimately it allows John to not be as emotionally tied to some decision. So for instance, if you're micromanaging your practice and something negative happens and you're emotional, you're going to make a rash decision. That is not correct. And we don't make great decisions when we're emotional. What I love about your system, John, is it allows you time to process. And as you said, it might be 1 meeting, it might be 2 meetings, it might be 5 meetings. It's going to be however many it takes to make a really good decision about whatever adversity we're facing. I find that leaders make this mistake because, I'm going to handle this right now. And again, if you're emotional, you're not going to make a great decision. That's the challenge. So I love that process, John. I love the fact that you seek out counsel, right? You seek out your peers and your coaches and your mentors, and you say, is there anything I'm not seeing here? Can you give me your thoughts? Don't tell me what to do. I've never heard you say that, but can you give me your thoughts on it? I think it's a really smart decision because it allows you to make great decisions.
Well, we hope we're making great decisions. That's we're compassionate about loving on our people, loving on our team, loving on our employees, and creating an environment that they want to come in and excel at. And so we take decisions serious, and we hope and pray that we're making the best decision at that moment with the information that we have. And I think our team feels that. I know they do, because they've told me that on some of our tougher decisions in the past. But you know, the culture also has to be exciting. Leadership and culture can be hard, but man, it's got to be exciting, because we all want to be in the boat rowing together, kicking butt, taking names, and winning often. And winning is okay. If you have a goal, a group of people focused on a goal, understanding the vision and where you're going, then it's like, hey, let's lock arms and let's go. Let's go take that hill. Let's go win that game. It's a fourth quarter, whatever it is. Let's enjoy the process of trying to win. Not winning at the expense. No, when I say winning, I mean we're going to change this patient's life. We're going to do beautiful dentistry on beautiful patients with beautiful relationships. And if we do all that and we try to win along the way, hey, that's great. Winning could also be a new employee stepping up, doing something they've never done before at a high level. And we're all high-fiving them, saying, oh my gosh, you did so good. Congratulations. It could be growing a hygienist, getting that hygienist ready for another location where she's going to be out on her own. It could be anything, as long as you're acknowledging what that is, where you plan on going, where you plan on taking it, and then spending the time to be compassionate and be excited about it once you get there and you see what was accomplished. Yeah, I'm getting excited just talking about it.
Yeah, me too, man. Because again, when we talk about winning, it's not winning and losing. You create win-wins, and that's 100% what your team does. You mentioned, you mentioned rowing the boat. And I know that you and your team, just recently, that was one of your outside activities. And I'm going to tie this together with the word trust. You've used that continuously through the podcast that we've had, is that trust needs to be built. Can you talk about, pretend I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Can you talk about how frequently you do your offsites with your team and what that looks like? Because again, this is one of those, it's a simple thing, guys, but I'm telling you, if you want to take it to the next stratosphere, and the other thing we'll get to is growth, because John is expanding. He expanded tremendously here, and now he's actually going to other locations. So I want to get to that. But before we do, John, can you talk about how often you get together off-sites and what that looks like?
Well, it's important. It's important to get away from the home base. It's important to get away from, change your environment, and I can't tell you how important that is, because in every day we're doing the do. We're in the do. And you think about a college football team, whether you're Dabo Sweeney or Nick Saban, I know he's retired now, but you're a college football team and you're going to play one game on Saturday. More likely it'll be on a Saturday. One game. And you're going to spend 6 days reviewing film and preparing for that one opportunity. Well, what do we do every day? We show up when we go to work and we play that game every day, and it can be dogmatic and it can be hard and your back can hurt and it can be tough. So to have any type of leadership meeting, I believe it needs to be off base. It needs to be somewhere else. And so we're so big now. We live in a small town, and we have to go to my church, and we do it back in the back, and we do it once a month. And I used to prepare all of it. And about 3 years ago, I quit doing it. And it's team leader led. And so every Wednesday we get together for an hour to an hour and a half, the team leaders and myself, and we talk about where we're going and how we're going to get there. And part of that is also going to be planning for the next 2 or 3 meetings. And anytime you can do it and post it on Facebook that you're having fun, your employees will love it, but your patients will love it too. They see us having fun here. They want to know we're having fun out there too. So once a week we have a team leader meeting, and once a month we have a monthly meeting. It's a 4 to 5 hour meeting. We deal with a lot of things, but we do a lot of leadership stuff. Every meeting we do training on the practice, training on new patients, training on patient interactions, and we always it's always competitive and it's always fun. We're very competitive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of your 4 C's, man. So I totally get it. It is interesting. If somebody's listening, they're like, really? Once a month? Yeah. Go have fun. You are humanizing everyone on your team. As John said, your patients now get to see that, oh, this is a team that genuinely likes to be around one another. They're genuinely, you build this camaraderie so much faster than you can doing the same routine over and over. I have to ask you, I'd be remiss if I didn't. You, after, John, almost 30 years of practice, you've decided to expand to another locale. What went into that decision making, and how did you know it was the right time, brother? So you built a culture, expanded it's tremendous in Chickasha, but you said, and I don't mean to say finally, you said, look, we're going to go and expand elsewhere because we have a great product. What went into that?
Well, we went from 2 chairs to 4 chairs to 8 chairs to 14 chairs, and now we're at 15 chairs. So we just keep expanding. And what came to the point was when these other offices would bring their team leaders to our practice and go through our next level production course, which we teach leadership at this course. And when that took place, they would come and they would leave and they would go do great things. And some of these offices had multiple locations. And a couple of years ago, my leadership group were like, hey, why aren't we doing this? Why? I mean, if they're doing it, why can't we do it? Okay, there's the competitive nature in me, but it may have started with them. I don't need to do it, but I'm excited about doing it. I'm excited about how many more people we can help. I'm excited about not just patients, because you doctors watching this, you make an economic impact on the lives of your employees. And if our leadership team can no longer grow, shame on me. If our leadership team, if our practice can no longer grow, shame on me. So when we go to another location, we have 6 employees from Elgin, Oklahoma, 25 miles down the road, and those 6 employees live there already. We're going to be opening up in about 60 days. So we have the mothership here. We've been training for 2 years, getting ready for this, 1.5 to 2 years. And we have 6 employees that are already living in that community we've been training here. It's very, very exciting because out of this, there'll be new leadership comes out of it. Out of this, there'll be new people step up to the plate and grow. And then we'll also have to hire new people. So the aha moment for me is when my leadership core started asking for it. I'm like, okay, we prayed about it and we thought, okay, we're going to start knocking on some doors, and the doors kept getting open and kept getting open. And we felt like it was something that we're supposed to do to help grow people, help grow additional people in our area so that we can help more people. And that's exciting, man. It's so exciting when, what's our purpose in life? I think our purpose in life is to be humble servants. How can I help other people? And a lot of people say, how can I help other people be the best version of themselves? How can we help other people get better? How can we help other people grow more? How can we help other people be better leaders? How can we help other people become more Christ-centered, more competitive, more compassionate, and more committed? I got them out of order. That's what happens.
That's all right. You nailed all 4 at the end of the day. That's what matters. What I love about expansion, and if you talk to me, anybody, you know how excited I get about expanding. Because here's the deal. Just like John said, you're creating more opportunities for other human beings. You're now serving another community, patient-wise, but you're also serving more professionals. And here's the deal. When you have the mindset, you have the skills and everything that John has acquired through these years, that's really, I know he loves practicing dentistry and he's really good at it. But after a while, taking time away and actually using the mind to expand it even more, it's so powerful. John, I'm looking at the clock. We are ripping through this. I want to ask you for your final thoughts on culture, anything that's on your heart that you want to make sure to share as we start to wrap up this incredibly impactful show. I mean, I'm excited. Like you said, I'm excited to get back out there and work with teams like yourself. But anything we didn't cover today that you want to make sure to get to the audience?
I have to say, please don't take this for granted. Don't think that this is pie in the sky, foo-foo, crazy stuff. I mean, in a sense, it is crazy stuff. I mean, you're going to decorate pumpkins and your practice is going to grow. You're going to go row in a boat. Well, look at the culture of basketball teams. Look at the culture. Somebody said this, and maybe JM, it was you, I don't really remember, but they did a study, and it might have been you. The more I think about it, I can't really remember who said this, but they did a study based off of NBA basketball teams that simply would high-five each other. This just popped into my head. And the teams that would high-five each other, those are the teams that, whether verbally or non-verbally, that said something about their culture, that they liked each other, they were having fun, and it wasn't just about winning at all costs and forget who my teammate is, I gotta win. No. And so this study was, they went through, and all these teams that were high-fiving, the majority of those were the teams that made it into the playoffs. It was a very interesting study, something like that. And so this culture stuff, there's something to it. There's always going to be something to how can we make our team stronger? How can you make your team stronger? So think long and hard about how important is this? Nobody wants to show up every day and say, how can I behave so that I run my team off, I run my patients off, and nobody has any job fulfillment, so we just have a high turnover. Who wants that type of life? So everything we've talked about today is pointing in just the opposite direction. I want employees that I don't ever have to train, do entry-level training. I want long-term, quality, committed, compassionate employees that want to win only by helping other people get better. And I think that's, I think it starts with culture. I think culture is a key point in our success. So JM, thanks for having me. I know I get to rambling, but I'm compassionate about this. I said it again, I'm compassionate.
Yeah, brother, I thank you for being here. My final thought is exactly, I'm just gonna echo what John said. Look, you spend over 33% of your life at work, you may as well spend it in an amazing culture that's fun and competitive or Christ-centered, whatever your values are. Utilize John's if that makes sense, or find your own, but be intentional about the culture that you have, because it's going to be there, but it's your job as a leader to really get clarity, be intentional about it, and watch the growth take off. So, brother, I just appreciate you so much, man. I thank you for all the words of wisdom and nuggets, and just thanks for the way you show up, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, JM.
I want to thank you guys for being here, and I would ask you to please share this out with people you care about. Such an incredibly important subject that we covered today. We appreciate you so very much, and we'll see you next time.